Hey, what's up, people? Pizzao here, and today I want to talk to you guys about 1985's Death Wish 3. Now, this is partially going to be a review of the movie, as well as a review of this Blu-ray release from Umbrella Entertainment. Now, this is the Canon Classics double feature Blu-ray that also includes Death Wish 2. A couple of days ago, I did a review of Death Wish 2 in which I talked about the film as well as this Blu-ray release. So this video, I'll just be discussing Death Wish 3 as well as the picture quality and sound quality, the extras, etc. on this Blu-ray. And where to begin with Death Wish 3? What little plot we have for the movie revolves around Paul Kersey, played again by the legendary Charles Bronson. He's decided to return to New York City to pay his old pal Charlie a visit. When he arrives there, he discovers that Charlie has been killed by an extremely violent street gang. This prompts Charles Bronson to go out and do exactly what Charles Bronson does best, and that's commit mass murder on a truly epic scale. Now, in my review of Death Wish 2, I said that that film was the perfect bridge between the very serious tone that was the first film and the over-the-top, super cheesy, ultra-violent tone of Death Wish 3. And I think the only way that you can even begin to wrap your mind around Death Wish 3 is to say that it is over-the-top in each and every aspect imaginable. Beginning with the body count. The body count in this movie. Charles Bronson wipes out an entire generation of people in this movie. That leads me to the action sequences in Death Wish 3. Charles Bronson uses an old school machine gun. He uses a wieldy pistol, which is the most powerful pistol known to man, at least back in 1985. He even uses a rocket launcher. A rocket launcher. It's also kind of like Bronson's Commando in that, the body count rivals Commando. I think the body count in this movie blows Commando out of the water. But Bronson is kind of like Schwarzenegger in Commando in that 20 people could have him squared, dead to right, shooting countless rounds of ammunition at him, and the bullets just miss him. It's like even the bullets fear Charles Bronson in Death Wish 3. Bronson just casually turns, one shot, bam, they're done. They're over. They're flying off of rooftops. They're flying off of balconies. For some reason, the hoods and the gangsters in this movie, they're almost like they're hanging out of trees. They're hanging off of like fire escapes. They're doing all these like crazy, almost parkour type action sequences. This movie, it created parkour. Parkour originated in Death Wish 3. You've got to see. I don't know what would possess a criminal to literally hang out of a tree with a gun, or to, I swear there's one sequence where a guy's holding on to a fire escape, and he's like hanging off of it in the most uncomfortable and dangerous position and completely unnecessary position, shooting at Charles Bronson. And of course, when Bronson returns fire, one shot takes him out. And of course, he plummets to the ground. And there are so many sequences in this movie where people are either thrown off of buildings, or they're shot from atop a building, or from atop some elevated position, and they come plummeting off of that position. And a lot of those effects are achieved using like dummies or mannequins or whatever, and they're very, 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 very clearly mannequins or dummies or what have you. Bronson in Death Wish 3 outdoes Schwarzenegger in Commando, and that is saying something, because in Commando, Schwarzenegger takes out like an entire military stronghold all by himself. Bronson one-ups him in that he takes out not one street gang, not one entire street gang, but two street gangs, because at the end of the movie, the street gang that he's been destroying this entire movie, they call in another gang, like a gang of bikers. And it seems like such an odd, you have this like street gang, why they would call for backup and like a motorcycle gang would show up, I have no idea. He kills all the street gang members and he turns around and kills pretty much all of this biker gang with like 3 weapons. 3 weapons. Schwarzenegger was like a walking arsenal in Commando. So Bronson more than one-ups Schwarzenegger in Commando in Death Wish 3. That is an accomplishment. The setting of Death Wish 3 is incredibly over the top as well. It's as if the movie takes place in this post-apocalyptic New York that is so clearly not New York, but like some really cheaply and poorly made sets and like storefronts that were just built for the sole purpose of being set on fire and blown to pieces. That leads me to the sheer volume of explosions, of fire, and of gunfire in this movie. At least 70% of Death Wish 3's budget had to be comprised of explosives and like those dummy bullets. There are 1 million rounds of ammo expended in this movie. As I said, the cheap, generic looking buildings in the movie, pretty much every one of them explodes or burns to the ground in this movie. It's apocalyptic. It is absolutely apocalyptic. And it is if, forget the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. You just need one Bronson. And as a matter of fact, they should have changed the title of Death Wish 3 to be Death Wish 3 Bronson Apocalypse. Death Wish 3 is truly a film that could have only been made in the 80s and only by Canon Films. I love Death Wish 3 because it is so absolutely over the top. It has to be seen to be believed, and again, only in the 80s and only from Canon Films could a movie like this exist. If you've not seen Death Wish 3, by all means, go out and watch Death Wish 3. This Blu-ray from Umbrella Entertainment would be a great way to introduce yourself to the film. If you're a fan of Death Wish 3, you definitely want to look into picking up this Blu-ray from Umbrella Entertainment and adding it to your collection. On the Umbrella release, we get Death Wish 3, the unrated theatrical cut. We get the Death Wish 3 theatrical trailer. Try saying that 3 times fast. And a TV spot for the film. We also get Action 2, the making of Death Wish 3, Runaway Train, and House, narrated by William Catt. It's 53 minutes and 27 seconds in length, featuring behind-the-scenes footage and interviews with cast and crew from all 3 of those films. For Death Wish 3 in particular, we get brief interviews with Charles Bronson, Michael Winter, Peter Mullins, the set designer, and Eric Orsatti, the stunt coordinator. They discuss the wieldy pistol Bronson uses in the film, and we get behind-the-scenes footage of the sequence in which Bronson takes out the Giggler.
They killed the Giggler, man. They killed the Giggler!
They also discussed creating the New York ghetto in London, England. They discussed the setups to perform a full-body burn stunt and a car crash and subsequent explosion in the film. Pretty interesting to see how they set all that up. Really interesting to see how they recreated that apocalyptic New York ghetto, that very exaggerated apocalyptic New York ghetto in London, England. pretty interesting featurette there, 53 minutes and 27 seconds in length. We get cast and crew interviews that were recorded for the Electric Boogaloo documentary. About 26 minutes in length. For Death Wish 3, they interview Alex Winter. He discusses at length working with Michael Winter, and it is fascinating. Winter describes Michael Winter as this kind of brilliant sadist and misogynist man-child who probably had a dungeon in his basement. A fascinating interview about Death Wish 3 all around with Alex Winter. He discusses working with Charles Bronson, but he spends a lot of time talking about Michael Winter, what he was like as a director, and he was clearly a disturbed individual. This is a very nice release for Death Wish 3 from the fine folks over at Umbrella Entertainment. The picture quality and the sound quality are both very good, and we get some nice extras on here. And of course, you get Death Wish 2 and Death Wish 3 together, and I love that. These are my two favorite Death Wish movies. To have them together on this Blu-ray release is just perfect. And yeah, great release here from the folks over at Umbrella Entertainment. I highly, highly recommend it. If you've seen Death Wish 3, please let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. If you're not following me on social media, those links are in the description. They're also right around here. As always, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care, and until next time, peace. Say hello to the internet, Jeremy.
Hello to the internet.